Welcome to the Camila Gornia Show. This is Heart Behind Hustle, episode number 4. And today we are jamming with Selena Soo, who's a business and publicity strategist. In this episode, she's going to reveal to us her 5 lessons she learned in 5 years of business. This is a totally amazing interview, lots of great golden nuggets, so make sure that you stay tuned. Now, a little bit about Selena. Selena Soo is a business and publicity strategist. She's also the creator of Impacting Millions, an online program and community for experts, authors, and coaches looking to elevate their brands, reach more people, and change the world. She's a 7-figure business owner and is passionate about helping mission-driven entrepreneurs to grow their revenues and their impact. Her work has been featured on Forbes, Fast Company, Inc., and Business Insider. So very exciting. Let's just go ahead and dive right into the interview. Hey everyone. So I am here with Selena Soo, and I'm super excited to have you, Selena, because, well, first of all, I have been following you for a little while, and I have been in your Impacting Millions class, and, I've supported you in your recent launch of that. So obviously, I'm a big proponent of everything that you're doing, and I'm really excited for everybody that's listening to the podcast to learn more about you. And the most exciting thing I think that's happening right now is that you just, you're at like year 5 in your business.
Yeah.
So that's amazing.
Yeah, no, it's like such a huge milestone. And there have been, so many amazing things that have happened along the way. But I think all of us entrepreneurs know how hard it is to run a business. And so I feel like I've achieved a lot, but I've also overcome a lot and learned a lot. So it's a really exciting time for me.
Mm-hmm. So today in this episode, it's going to be a little bit different. So we're actually going to be talking about the 5 lessons that Selena has learned through running her business for 5 years. So anybody that has been in business for a little while, I mean, some of these lessons I'm sure are going to be just very different and fresh regardless. But before we dive into that, I would love to know a little bit more in terms of your business, Selena. So I know that you are running your Impacting Millions class, and is that the only way that you work with clients, or is there any other way that you support people in your business?
Sure. So I have a couple of different offerings. So I've got 3 online programs. One is Impacting Millions, which is all about publicity and becoming that industry leader and reaching lots of people with your message. I also have a course called Influence, which is focused on networking and building these win-win relationships. And then I've got Get Known, Get Clients, which is about getting clients. So I've got those 3 core programs. I had a mastermind, which I had stopped, and now I've restarted it with a business partner. So it's pretty cool. It's an invitation-only mastermind. Most of the people are at the 7-figure level, and they're doing really big things. Like they really are either, literally impacting millions this moment or on their way to doing so. So I've got that. And I'm definitely thinking about what other offerings I might create in the future, because I feel like there's more people I want to work with and help. But that's what I have right now.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And do you do any kind of like one-on-one support, or have you done that in the past in your business?
Yeah, I did. I've done that before. Yeah. So when I started my business, I began with one-on-one. And then I transitioned out of that into the mastermind. And when the mastermind ended, I kept on just a couple of one-on-one clients. And now I've got a new mastermind, so I'm moving people into that. So it's just phases. Like every couple of years I might have one-on-one, and other times like I just, kind of put that on pause for the next big thing. So when I launched Impacting Millions, I just knew that it was going to take so much work that I had to stop my mastermind, because I just couldn't be in so many places doing everything at once. So yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
good.
Yeah, I love that. So a question that I like to know from anybody that has, and anybody that like has had, like that's a rockstar entrepreneur like yourself, something that's very interesting for me to know is if you can pinpoint to that moment where everything just like, you were just like, holy crap, things are just like working and people are really knowing me, and it's just like you see that like crazy momentum. Has there been a moment like that where you're just like, wow, maybe it was a launch or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, there have been a couple of moments. I guess the first would be when I launched my website. So from the very early stages, I had testimonials from people like Marie Forleo and Danielle Laporte and top magazine editors. And so that generated a lot of buzz very quickly. People were curious about me, even though, I was brand new in the market. I still was able to get people's attention, and people were inquiring about working with me. So I think that was a moment. Another big moment for me was when I launched my first group program. And this was back in, it was in, was it 2013 or 2004? No, 2014. So about 3 years ago. And at that time, my email list had 3,800 people. And I remember my coach was saying that, to price my program at a certain price point, like $1,000, focus on getting like 10 people and enrolling them one-on-one over the phone. She just didn't feel like I could do a webinar and convert. And I just knew deep down, like, I'm not going to do like this big program to make $10,000 only. It just didn't make sense for me at that time because I was working with one-on-one clients and had a mastermind. And so I set my sights on like a 6-figure launch, which seemed crazy to the people around me, but I surpassed my goal and I made $150,000 in my very first launch. And so I think at that moment I knew like, wow, things are just moving up and it's really exciting.
That's amazing. And I feel like that's very often like the thing that, like, when we're like, oh my God, these things are working, because we're able to create more leverage. And I think with group programs and courses, like when structured properly, it can really be amazing. So I love hearing that. So let's just go ahead and talk about your 5 lessons, because these are like, I'm super excited to know more about these. So let's just go right in.
Sure. Yeah. So I was in LA recently and I was just spending a lot of time reflecting, like, what are really like the most important things that I've learned in my business. And for me, the number one thing, and I think it will actually be the number one thing for a lot of people, is when it comes to growing a successful business, I really believe that the top thing is over everything else is client selection. Now, people are like, really? A lot of times people think it's about hustle. It's about niching down. It's about how you brand yourself. But at the end of the day, if you are a service provider of some sort or a coach or a consultant, it's about your client success. And so from the get-go, I aligned myself with amazing people who inspired me. Before I even had a business, I started reaching out and, connecting and supporting people like Marie Forleo and Danielle Laporte. And that became an important part of my brand. And I continue to support a lot of 7-figure entrepreneurs, whether it was in my mastermind or one-on-one. And, they got such amazing success stories. And then all their followers ended up learning about me. So that was huge. I mean, these people have also become top affiliates. And the thing is, I think a big problem in the marketplace nowadays is people are marketing their services and offerings in the wrong way and not realizing it. So the big thing that I see people doing is they'll say things like, are you just like frustrated with how your business, it hasn't been as successful as you thought it would have been? Have you joined like so many, group program after group program and you're not seeing results, like you've come to the right place. And essentially what you're doing is you're attracting people who aren't successful or maybe haven't been successful in other programs or have really low confidence. And people who have low confidence tend not to do well because you just have to believe in yourself to keep on moving. And also people who don't believe in themselves don't spend money. And so for me, on the one hand, while like marketing one-on-one is about really hitting on the pain and twisting the knife, you don't want to be so negative to the point that you're attracting negative people. And so when it came to impacting millions, like I wanted to attract people who had a big vision for themselves, more empowering language. So things like, did you know deep down that you are meant to do big things in this world? Maybe you've had a conversation with someone who said to you, wow, like talking to you was more powerful than 3 years of therapy. Like you've changed my life. So I'm really trying to draw and attract those people. And even on my email list, if somebody sends me an email that's nasty and unkind, at this point, I don't even engage. I just unsubscribe them because I've become really clear that I'm not here to help everyone. I'm here to help people who are leaders or people who have leadership potential and really want to make a difference in the world. So if someone is nasty, mean, and negative, they're just not, meant for my community. And I don't even want them to be in my program. So I think I've gone really intentional about who I kind of let into the circle. And I think it's really served me well.
Mm-hmm. It kind of blows my mind that you would even get hate mail personally, because you're so nice and you give so much value. So that kind of just blew my mind a little bit. But so I think one of the biggest red flags that I usually just like look out for when I get on like sales calls or when I get like inquiries from people, it is that, okay, I have worked with this person and this person, I've taken this course and none of it works. Well, there's a reason why it's not working, and it's probably not the coach or the program.
Right.
So yeah, I'm really glad that you mentioned that. I think it's so important to like be really cautious and mindful of the copy that you write, because that's true. Even though, yeah, like I said, even though showing the pain, there's some benefit to that, but let's not go overboard either. So
Exactly.
yeah, I
100%.
love that. Perfect. What's number two?
Okay, so the second big lesson I've learned is that courage brings you freedom. And so, that's hard for those of us who are maybe people pleasers, like when it's like, we have to bring something up, have a difficult conversation. But in my business, I've had to, let go of, even 7-figure clients who are really well respected, but for whatever reason, maybe we're just, not in alignment anymore. Or maybe there's team members who started with you, and as you grow your business, they can't really help you get to the next level. Maybe someone joined as a VA and then they've stuck around and they end up getting promoted to more, a senior role, more senior responsibilities, but they can't do the job. So I feel like, on the other side of like a courageous conversation is that freedom. So that's been super huge for me.
Can you give a specific like situation, for example, like with a client, or like how do you actually approach dealing with that? Let's say, like, I'm sure everybody that's listening, since most people are listening are seasoned entrepreneurs. There's
Yeah.
probably been situations where like maybe a contractor is kind of like not delivering in the way that they're supposed to, or maybe a client is kind of, something is going on. What would be like your steps to kind of approaching that so that you're, being able to create that freedom for yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're looking to end a relationship, I think it's okay not to be totally transparent from the standpoint that you don't need to share with someone your entire psychological process and why you're ending something, right? Maybe you just don't like them. Maybe you think they're unethical. Maybe you think they're, whatever it is. Like, they don't really need to hear that from you. So there's like a couple of, different things. I'm trying to think of what has happened recently. But yeah, I mean, I think you just kind of share a little bit of it, of why it's not working. So like, for example, you know, let's say someone's working with you and you say to them, like, I know that you're spending a lot of money to work with me. And at this point, like, my business is changing direction. I have this new focus. Like, these are the types of clients I'm really looking to work with. And, for you to be spending that money on me, like, I really need to be, I should be giving you my all, and I'm just moving in this different direction. So I don't feel like I can support you in the way you need to be supported. So that would be one of the ways. I've had situations like when I first started my mastermind a couple of years ago, there was someone who, she had a lot of attitude and there were some red flags, but I thought, you know what, like, I really see this person's potential. I could be the one to help her. And so I invited her into the mastermind, and like pretty quickly she was causing problems. We had like a group call, like a kickoff call, and she started like kind of ordering me around and like making all these suggestions for the retreat when it wasn't like her retreat, it was my retreat, and I knew I wanted to do. And then we got on a call later and she just started being disrespectful to me, but she didn't even realize it. And I just had to stop the conversation right there. And I was like, I think that you're amazing what you do, but you can't come to the retreat anymore. You can't be in the mastermind. And I remember, the mastermind was literally happening that week. And she's like, well, I've already bought my ticket. Like, I've got my Airbnb. And I was like, that's fine. I'll reimburse you. Like, I'll cover all the expenses. There have been a lot of times when I've had to stop something, and I will give people a full refund. I will pay for their expenses, for them to end the program. It might sound crazy, but I just need them, out of my circle.
Yeah.
That's what I've been doing. Yeah. For the past couple of years when I've had to.
Yeah, like cutting out the energy, kind of like, okay, this is not worth, because it's so much energy and like mental capacity to think about that. But I'm curious, have people ever like come back and like went a little bit crazier after you were like, hey, actually, I don't want to continue working with you. We are going to stop our relationship now. Has something ever happened where it didn't, like, they weren't just like, oh, okay, great. Thanks, Selena.
No, I mean, people are usually not happy. So it's, they might get angry. They might be like, share more details with me. I don't understand. I mean, I've had people cry before. Interestingly enough, I mean, there's just like a lot of emotions.
Yeah.
But I think that, if it's not working for one person, like the coach, it's not ultimately going to work for the client either.
Right.
If the coach isn't all in. So yeah, I mean, that's why it's really hard, because I know that there could be, anger on the other side, and a lot of intense feelings. But at the same time, after you have the conversation, you feel so good. But I've had situations where, like, I am a sensitive person. So like leading up to the conversation that whole week, like I'm feeling nervous about it. And then I do it and then it's over. And I feel better.
And I think, I really love you sharing this, because I feel like a lot of people don't really realize that that's like a part of what happens when you work with clients, whether it's in group programs or masterminds or one-on-one, like that situation, those kinds of situations happen. So understanding that, just because it happened to you doesn't mean you're the only person in the world that this has ever happened to you. I was talking to one of my clients and she was saying the same thing. She was trying to let go of a client and it just felt, she was so nervous about it. So, it totally happens. So I appreciate you sharing that. Okay. So let's go ahead and move to the next one. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So the third big lesson I've learned is to be careful about what you give. And this is an interesting one, because I think anyone who follows me knows I'm really passionate about going above and beyond and helping people. At the same time, you have to be mindful about your giving, because on the one hand, yes, the most successful people in the world are givers, but also studies have shown the most unsuccessful people are givers as well. And that's what happens when you're not strategic or thoughtful about how you're giving and expending your energy. So there's so many examples of this in the world that we're in this coaching and online entrepreneurial space. I remember someone who was launching a mastermind. It was a 6-month program, and she was putting, I guess, all this pressure on herself, and she thought, I need to throw in every bonus. And so it was like, you join this mastermind and you get like sessions with her copywriter and with her graphic designer and this thing and that thing and like a million bonuses, to the point that like she was over giving. People didn't need all those things. And then it was preventing her from creating other offerings. I've also seen this just in like bigger launches where people are promoting their program and then constantly releasing like one bonus after the other and doing like this huge bonus stacking. And like the course is $2,000, but the bonuses are $25,000. And it's kind of like, well, shouldn't the course be enough? Shouldn't the course be the centerpiece? So I think that that's something that we really do have to watch out for.
How do you strike the right balance? Because, having bonuses on the other hand, it can definitely support people. So, and I know you've given some bonuses in your launches as well. So how do you strike the balance of like when to give enough, but not too much where you're starting to like cheapen basically your offering?
Yeah. I mean, so the main thing is really like highlighting all the benefits of the existing program and what it offers, right? Getting people excited about that. With the bonuses that you do add, you want to make sure that they're, for the most part, easy to consume. So with, Impacting Millions, we have like a couple of videos. We've got like 3 bonus videos that I think are really going to complement what people learn. So we have got one with Farnoosh Torabi, who is now an Oprah columnist. And so she shares how that happened and how she got her own TV show. So those unique stories really add color to the course as a whole. But, I wouldn't be one to be like, oh, here's 20 interviews, or here you get this like telesummit of 50 interviews along with the core content. Like the bonuses shouldn't take more time to go through than the core content. And they should really just be tied to helping people get results. So I'm very careful about the bonuses, just because like the last thing you want to do is make people feel overwhelmed. And if they have like so much stuff, they actually might be less likely to even start your program, because it's like, oh my gosh, I've got like dozens and dozens of hours of content. I'm just overwhelmed even thinking about it.
That's really interesting. And do you tend to, do you recommend like putting, so how people say, okay, you need to put this dollar amount on this dollar amount on this. So do you recommend, because you gave the example of like the course is $2,000, the bonuses are $25,000, which I hope that isn't the case, but do you recommend putting the dollar amounts on the bonuses? And if so, should it be like less than the actual course, or should it be like, or does it not matter?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on the person. I think that, for certain brands, like if you're focused on being more of a prestige brand, I think it is confusing to add too many bonuses, or like the course is worth 2,000, but the bonuses are worth 5,000. Like that doesn't make sense. You know, if you're a prestige brand, you wouldn't be doing that. Like you think of, you know, you don't go to Louis Vuitton and you buy a $2,000 like handbag, and then you get $5,000 worth of other stuff. So I mean, typically I think it's a good practice for the bonuses to be maybe half the price of the course. If the course is 2,000, bonuses add to up to 1,000 and not too much more. But it depends on the brand and what feels good.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned the brand too, because that's so relevant. And it's interesting because a lot of the people that are teaching the like so much stacking, and it's like it goes overboard, because I've seen that a lot. They definitely don't brand themselves as like, you know, elite or prestige or whatever, however you want to kind of prestigious brand. And I love consuming content and I love buying stuff. And I remember a couple of years ago, I bought a course. It was about speaking. And the bonuses were like the biggest thing, the biggest pull. And then the course itself was like, well, if the bonuses want to hear, I probably wouldn't pay what I'm paying now. Like it was just like so many mixed emotions about it. And I don't think that's a very good way for your clients to feel when it comes to buying your stuff. So definitely. So to recap, so when you're sharing bonuses, make sure that they're complementary to your actual offering. Ideally that are quick and easy to consume, so they're not taking over and not preventing people from actually going into creating and consuming the actual course content. It supports people in getting results and is brand relevant. So if you have a prestigious brand, then probably not a very good idea to include a ton of bonuses.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I want to give one more example under this lesson about not overgiving. So one thing is, for a lot of us coaches, like we have Facebook groups with our different programs. For me, like I only have Facebook groups for programs that are $3,000 or up. I see people launching like smaller programs, maybe for $497 or whatever the dollar amount is, and they're including that community. And there's no really like, I don't know, there aren't strong guidelines. So people in the group may be tagged all day long. Even in my Impacting Millions program, like I want there to be an active community, and I want to be like a huge part of that. But I actually instituted a rule recently that people can't tag me. And the reason why is, some people would tag me every single time they were sending an email to the media, every single time there was an update in their business. And so if I am, responding to all those posts, and it's training 300 other people in the group, if you want Selena's attention, just tag her every single time you're doing something. And so it reached a point where we just let people know that, I'm an active member in the Facebook group. I'm in there every business day, and I will, answer as much as I can, but the community is really for you. And that, you don't need to tag me. I'll be looking at everything. So that's another good one.
So it's like 3B, make sure you establish strong boundaries with your clients.
Right, exactly.
That's powerful. So to kind of go off of be careful what you give on a different side, I'm curious what you think about like visibility and giving content for free, because there's a lot of people that share, on the one hand, give away everything, give away the farm and just like free stuff, and then people are going to want to buy. On the other hand, there's the other camp of people that are saying, you have to make sure that what you're sharing is like just enough to make them want to buy. So not very much. So I'm curious to know where you, like what you believe when it comes to content creation.
Yeah, I feel like it's a little bit different with everyone. So I don't have any hard and fast rules, but, someone shared this story with me before, this analogy of, like there's, a man in the desert and he's like thirsty. If you give him a drop of water, he's going to want more. But if you throw a bucket over him, he's not going to want the water. And so I think a lot of people are throwing a bucket over people's heads. I'm actually really surprised by the amount of free information that people are giving. I oftentimes, think it tends to be too much. But it's relative. Like if it's connected to your purpose, if you want to create that much content, that's fine. I know certain people that create like 10 times as much content as me, or maybe it's 4 times or 5 times. And yet, we're doing the same revenue wise, and their list may be like so much bigger. But they're just giving people so much stuff all day long that people don't really need to buy anything.
Right.
And I guess for me, I'm not a really fast content creator. It takes me a long time to create something that I feel like is truly excellent. And so I want to, for the most part, like reserve a lot of that for people who invest in my paid programs. Um, yeah, so that's my thought about that. The other thing is, one of the most important things is create emotional connection. And you don't need to write a lot of content to create emotional connection. So I remember when I did this workshop at my home about like 6 months into my business. At the end of the workshop, I heard two of the women talking to each other. And one woman said to the other, I would have, I don't even really care what Selena's teaching. I just want to be in the same room as her. Like I really connect with her. And so that was interesting. And then at the end of that same event, someone asked me, I love everything you talked about in regards to like personal branding. But the thing I'm really curious about is how did you become friends with X? And so they were interested in like, relationships of particular people that they resonate with and can see themselves in. And so I think from a content perspective, it is important to share stories. It is important to show people that you are someone who is relatable and gets what they're going through. And once you like someone, you just want to, it's like, you got that emotional connection. It's like whatever they're offering, I want to be a part of it. So yeah, I focus more on creating emotional connection versus giving too much content that would be inside my course personally.
Yeah. And what I think is really cool is that you're kind of, you're looking at, well, you're basically showing us that you don't necessarily do things the way that some people are telling us, like creates social media posts like 5 times per day or, whatever. And you're not doing that, but you still have a 7-figure business. So it doesn't have to be that you follow this one path or this other one path. You can actually make it work in a way that works for you and supports you with running your business. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah. And also I'm not saying that the other path is wrong.
Right.
Right. Some people are successful with that, but it's like a lot of the things that you see
It's
people
finding your own way of doing it. Right.
Yeah, but I feel actually, proud that I can be an example of someone who does less to, achieve
Mm.
more in business. So I've got an Instagram account, but I've never posted anything. So I'm not like, really active or really on Instagram at all. I've never done a free challenge. I don't have a podcast. I don't have ambitions to write a book. I say no to most public speaking events that people would die for. So there's just so many things that I just choose not to do at all. And I think because of my business, for the things I do commit to, I go so all in. And I'm one of those, I guess, experts who not only has group programs, but I have, clients in my mastermind and at other points, like one-on-one clients. And so because I'm giving so much, like I have to be careful with where that
Right.
energy is going.
So, do you mind sharing like your favorite marketing strategy then, since you do like to make sure that you're not spending too much time on it? I'm curious to
Yeah.
know like what your favorite thing is.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is specific to me though. So
No,
it's
that's why you're the one,
okay.
you're the girl here. So,
Okay. Yeah. Well, this is like the easiest marketing strategy. It doesn't take much time. So for me, it's photos.
Mm.
So, a lot of my business is about connecting with influencers who open up doors and reaching more people and becoming friends with the people you admire. And so like I'll do dinner parties. Recently at my 5-year business anniversary, we had 80, amazing people with me on this incredible rooftop in Manhattan. And so I just have photographers like take a bunch of photos, and then we upload them onto Facebook. Like everyone is being tagged and people are like, oh my gosh, like Ramit Sethi was there, Todd Herman, Kimra, Derek Halper, everyone. And so people are like, wow, like Selena, brings together an amazing group of people. Or, I'll do these dinner parties. Right now I'm doing them on a regular basis with Chris Winfield, who's my business partner with the mastermind. And Chris tends to post the photo and he'll be like, we had this amazing dinner party. We call it the $100,000 dinner party because that's how much value people get in terms of the connections and the access. And then, he'll share a list of who's there. So it will be things like special projects director at Entrepreneur, contributors editor at Inc., this person at Glamour magazine, this person at that place. And so people are seeing who I'm connected with, and they're also seeing that photo, which, a picture says 1,000 words. So that's been the easiest thing because I don't really have to write anything. For the most part, it's just, posting a photo.
I love that. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, let's move into lesson number 4.
Yeah. So lesson number 4 is about staying in your zone of genius. This is one that I'm like very, very passionate about. So I think, in our world, a lot of people are not successful because they're overstretched. And they're doing a lot of things that they think are similar, but are actually really very different. So a lot of people think, coach, author, speaker, that goes together, when actually those 3 things are very distinct. And within each of them, there's further distinctions. So it's very different to coach someone one-on-one versus, train a group of people. It's very different to do a podcast interview and answer questions on the spot versus, give a 90-minute, presentation from stage. It's very different to write, viral Facebook posts or an email newsletter versus writing a book. And so a lot of people think they need to be everywhere and do everything. And that's just causing them to slow down in their business. So I think a big reason why things have sped up in my business is I just chose not to do that many things. For me, like, I don't do a lot of public speaking. I can do it, but it feels a bit out of my comfort zone. It's not like super easy for me. So typically I'll just say to people, like, I do, podcast interviews and hot seats and that kind of thing, but I just don't do that. Recently I said yes to something because I wanted to grow like my skills as a presenter. And so it was more of a learning opportunity. But, there are people that I know where, they don't need to prep that much. They've got their presentation down. They can just kind of take a look 20 minutes before, run on stage and get this huge standing ovation. And for me, it's like I'm spending like 2 to 3 months, like thinking about it, planning it out, getting the team to help me. I'd probably like hire a public speaking coach. It's like this big, huge thing. And some of these things, like, they may bring in money or they may not. They may more be like a branding thing. I rather post a photo than create this whole talk that maybe I'm going to use once. And people all the time invite me to speak to their groups and do presentations. And the thing is, like, I've got like sales webinars. And at this point, like with every new sales webinar I create, and there's only one per program, like it needs to be tied to $500,000 sales. I'm not just doing it for no reason. And some of them are, responsible and connected to like millions of dollars of sales, over the years. And then I've got like my modules inside my course. So I'm not really looking to give people like my free content that people would spend $3,000 to get in a course. Like, I will give part of it maybe in like an opt-in, but I don't want to go crazy and just give the whole thing away, give like an entire 60-minute thing. I mean, that's also a part of how people like overgive. And so I think just because I've been very selective, what I said yes to, but been able to do more, and the things that I do, I do them very well.
So I'm curious, when you started your business, because you started your business 5 years ago, did you start off doing all the things and then you figured out, okay, actually I don't like doing this and I don't like doing this. And then eventually you were like, this is what I want to be more selective on? Or did you know from the start that you wanted to focus on just a few things?
I mean, there's a lot of things I've never done, like at all. And then there's some things like when I first started my business, I did do like a couple of, bigger speaking things because it was great exposure. And also at the time, people weren't really using Facebook ads and things like that. So it's a great way to get in front of ideal clients, build your list, get people to sign up for a strategy session. So yeah, I did that a little bit more in the beginning. And then I just stopped doing it because I found other things that were, more enjoyable for me.
More effective. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm curious about because you mentioned webinars and you mentioned that, well, obviously that's usually involved with your launches. What do you think about repurposing webinars? Do you attempt to just like create one and then you use it for each launch, or do you recreate a brand new webinar for each launch?
No, I use the same webinar for every launch. And I just make it better and better each time.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I was curious because I don't know. No, you never know.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So let's go into lesson number 5.
Okay. People love this one. So lesson number 5 is listen to the market and then be ready to do the opposite. So I think that, there's wisdom in taking a look at what other people are doing. But at the same time, if you're going to become an industry leader, you're not going to be doing the same thing as everyone else. When I created my different programs, I mean, I got a lot of people, telling me things like, no one's going to buy a course on networking. Like my coach who I had spent $27,000 to work with in a mastermind told me that. One of my main mentors told me that nobody was going to buy it. And I even did some, market research, and I, emailed my list saying, I'm thinking about creating a program around X, Y, and Z. If you're interested, reply. And people replied, and I kind of gave them a little outline of what I'd be teaching. And I was like, do you think you would pay $297 for this? And people were like, oh, I don't know, or maybe. And that's basically no, right? And then I would like lower it, like, what about $197? Even still, there were some people that were not that into it. I'm like, oh my God, I can't create, I was like, how can I create this networking course if no one wants to buy it? And so I put it on hold. But I also knew like deep down that this is something that people wanted. And I just had to figure out how to package it. It didn't matter to me that at the time there weren't other courses like that on the market. My coach would be like, do you see any networking courses out there? There aren't, because there's not a market for it. You see courses on getting clients. But just based on things I had seen, I knew that people really cared about community and being connected to the people that they admire and care about. They just have to find the right language. And now I've launched Influence, and it ranges between $497 to about $900, depending on the level. And so I made it work, and it's like one of my best-selling programs. So there's that. I've also had situations where people have said, this is a different coach of mine. I really like this person, respect this person, but, I was told like, you shouldn't price your courses at $3,000. Like $3,000 is the dead zone. You need to price them at $2,000. Or if you're going to go up, you might as well price it at $5,000 to $10,000. And just based on the nature of my programs, it didn't make sense to charge like $2,000, because $2,000 tends to be like a 60-day program, or maybe 30 days. And my programs have they're longer. They're 6 months, maybe they're a year long in terms of support and other features. But I didn't want to charge $5,000 either. And so I was told it was a dead zone. And, I might be getting more people if I lowered my price point, but at the same time, I feel really good about it. I've had people tell me, people think you're greedy if you charge $3,000. Like everyone else is charging $2,000. What makes you think that you can charge more? And so, these are very smart people who have said that to me, but in my heart, I just knew that this was the price point that felt good to me, that made sense. And so, yeah, I've definitely taken people's advice and suggestions to heart, but at the same time, I've been willing to do the opposite thing.
I think that's really cool, because it shows that you have very strong self-trust and knowing of what people actually need. Because I think it's interesting, because even when Apple was released, or any other kind of just huge products that are out now, if they surveyed the people, they'd be like, yeah, I don't need that. I don't think I need that, because people don't know what they need or what they want.
Right.
So I think that's really amazing. And you're really brave for doing that too. I'm sure a lot of people would be a little bit more oh, I don't know, everyone's telling me not to do it, so I'm not going to do it. Have you ever had, I'm curious if you ever had a launch or a product that you put out there, and it didn't necessarily, it didn't necessarily create the success that you wanted, for whether it's sales or just engagement or anything like that?
Yeah, overall, my products have done well, but some launches haven't gone as well as others. So I launched my program, Get Known, Get Clients, in 2014. And the first time we got 50 students. So that was, about 150,000. The next time we got about 100 students. And then with the extended payment plan and everything, it ended up being closer to 330,000. And then we launched it again the next year, and sales were cut in half, back to 2014, but yet the list had been growing. So that was confusing to me. And then we launched it again later on that year, and we did the same numbers. So we had to do 2 launches, so that's a lot of resources, marketing resources, ops, fulfillment resources, to make the same money that we did in one launch. So that was a little bit,
what do you think? Yeah. What do you think was the reason for that?
It's hard to know for sure, but I think one of the reasons is market saturation. And so there's a lot of people that have courses right now. I think back in 2014 and 2015, it was a little bit easier. I think it's a bit harder now, but it just means that you have to kind of up your game a little bit more. I also think for me, as I stepped into doing more work around networking and publicity, that was what I was known for. And so people wanted more of that from me, and they knew that with the getting clients thing, there were other people that were offering it, and there were just a lot of offers out there. So I think one of the best things I've done for my business is really choosing to focus on a certain niche. So my main focus, well, there's two areas: it's publicity and networking. And I think because I've done that, I've been able to collaborate and be supported by all sorts of people. If my lead program was a course on getting clients and everyone else has got a course on getting clients, I'm probably not going to get many or any affiliates, but because my course was about helping people reach more people, get publicity, that kind of thing, it's actually complementary to a business offering, and it makes that business coaches students look amazing when they're like, oh, my star student wrote this amazing article from Entrepreneur in this place and that place. So I think that just like niching down has been really powerful. And also if I was a business expert, like just that was like the one thing, then a lot of these business leaders wouldn't necessarily come to me because they're the business expert, So because I filled like this different role, I was able to be hired by or, able to collaborate with all sorts of people.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I think it's awesome because it's like finding your own way and finding your own like thing. Because it definitely supports you, even though you do support people with business and with marketing and everything else too. It just makes it easier for just like those collaborations. And I love that because I know that you're really big on relationships and partnerships and things like that. So I think that's really powerful. Now, one other question I wanted to ask you is I'm curious what you think was like the biggest shift that made you from, that took your business from 6 figures into the 7 figures.
What was the biggest shift? It was definitely group programs. It's pretty hard to make 7 figures just from one-on-one. I know a couple people who do that, but they charge like $100,000 for private coaching and have 10 clients. That's not going to make sense for most of us, and we may not even want to charge those kinds of amounts. I think the biggest thing for me was creating a group program that was that people wanted, but there was nothing quite in the marketplace like it. And then also having a lot of affiliates promote it. So that was my number one thing for sure.
I love that. Thanks for sharing. And let us know if you are, what are you looking forward to? Are you working on anything exciting over the next several months that you want to share?
Yeah. What am I looking forward to? I think that I'm just placing like greater focus on my personal life and creating a sense of balance. The thing is, I do like working hard, and that's super enjoyable for me. But at the same time, I think a bigger challenge has been like not overstretching myself, having time to like rest and rejuvenate and go on holidays. And I do that, a bit, but I feel like I could be doing more of that. And so I really want to have that balance. And when my version of balance is not like 50-50, like 50% work, 50% leisure, but it's a balance that feels good for me. And so that's like the harder thing for me to do. So that's sort of what I'm focusing on. And I think that's what I'm most excited about too.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, especially with group programs, like you have that leverage. And I know you have a team too that kind of makes the business run. So you could definitely do that. So that's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing connected to that, I think in the past, it was like, when you're growing your business, it's important to bring in more revenue. Like, let's say you've invested a ton of resources into a group program and you create all the marketing and the modules. Like, it needs to be successful. Otherwise, you're not going to be in a good situation. Mm-hmm. Or, you've hired team members or whatever. So like, you need to make sure X amount of money is coming in. And at this point, I just feel like it doesn't matter. Like, I don't really need to make more money. And it's interesting because I talk to a lot of people who will be like, well, what's your next big goal? Like, do you want to go from like a couple years from now, do you want to be at 10 million or 20 million or whatever the number is? And like, it doesn't really matter to me. Like, I have, a good amount of money. I'm doing stuff I really love. And if I were to take on more things, I also think about like, how is that going to impact my quality of life? So I'm focused on that more than just making more money.
I think that's really important. Yeah. Because what's the point if it's gonna, especially if you like want to have a life, which I think everybody, everybody should want to have a life. We shouldn't hustle just for the sake of hustling. There has to be a reason for it. And if everything looks good, then, like that's great. So I wanted to know if you have some kind of a gift for our listeners. Let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. So a big part of my success has been the incredible relationships I've built with people that have become my friends, mentors, or clients. And I have this video called Get VIP Access to Media Influencers and Online Stars. And I break down 3 of the top secrets to developing those relationships. So if people want to check that out, they can go to selinasue.com/VIP video. And I talk about, how I connected with my mentor Ramit, how I met Marie Forleo and Danielle Laporte and build those relationships, how I, started throwing, different events and parties with magazine editors, and how I built like this, incredible, strong network over time. So if you want to hear any of those stories and get any of those tips, check out selinasue.com/VIP video.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. And if people want to learn a little bit more about Impacting Millions or any of your other offerings, or just, more about you, how can they do that?
Yeah, so they can go to selinasue.com/impactingmillions, and there'll be a wait list, so they can join that there. And I think the best way to learn about me is to listen to my podcast interviews. And so, this is a good one. You could just type in Selena Sue and then the word podcast, and a whole bunch of those should come up.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. You've shared a lot of amazing insights and learnings, and I'm sure everybody that's listening has been like, holy crap, taking notes like no other. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for this opportunity.